put them aside. Hello and welcome to Media Academy Online. I hope you had a great Christmas. You had some time off, you got to see your family. My Christmas was, and so I think I've done some damage. So I have to go to the doctor and get it looked at. Yeah, so I had a bit of an accident and I've been hopping around since. But that's okay, things will heal, we'll get back to it, and the next year is our year. So 2020, what a year it has been. It's been a crazy year. However, I wanted to reflect on the year in a different kind of way. I wanted to reflect on the filmmaking side of things, and even though this year has been disastrous for the film industry, there's still some things that has changed, some breakthroughs, some big changes that has happened within the industry. And especially someone like me who works in the industry every day, I wanted to really be able to reflect on the changes that have happened this year. I'll mention maybe about 5 or 6 different things that have changed in 2020. And when we finish, I'll announce my final change, which has occurred in 2020 at the end. So let's begin. So let's begin with technology. There's been a host of new cameras that have come out. It's been a big year for camera manufacturers, and there was a big focus on bringing more variety and more options for the consumers and the filmmakers out there. Maybe out of a little bit of bias here, but I wanted to talk about Blackmagicdesign here for a second. Them being based in my home city of Melbourne, I wanted to really give them a little bit of a plug here. Earlier this year, they announced the Blackmagic URSA 12K. So yes, this is a 12K camera. Now, I made a whole video on resolution and how that's not necessarily the be all and end all. So if you haven't watched that video, watch that video here, this side. Watch this video here. But on the other hand, when you look at other cameras, like the Red cameras or the Alexa cameras, or these sort of cameras that have really, really high specs, their resolution isn't even anywhere near this. And it's not just the fact that they can create a camera that can handle 12K, it's all of the other stuff behind it. Being able to create the software and the codecs to be able to run 12K footage and edit 12K footage. And that's always something that sort of gets neglected. And for instance, Red, it was a long time before we were able to edit natively Red footage in Premiere, and we had to, install plugins and stuff. Now they've finally put it in, but it took a few years for them to do that. But it's great that Blackmagic really thought about how can we create 12K codecs that can actually run on the computer. Speaking of codecs, let's move on to our second one, and this is with H.266. So any filmmaker is aware of H.264. It has basically been the standard for over 10 years now for creating, relatively high quality, but really compressed small files out of that high quality footage. And because of that reason, it's become universal. If you're working on large projects, there will be, .mov files, there'll be ProRes files that get sent as the final product. But anything on the internet is H.264 or H.265. Now we're getting H.266. And there's a few reasons why this codec is, notable. We can create 4K footage that has a smaller file footprint than before. That means this whole world of streaming can really, reinvent itself. Videos on like YouTube and things like that. It really means that we're going to be able to have smaller files, less bandwidth needed. And the second main point I want to mention is this means we can also have 8K footage native. And moving forward into 2021, 2022 and beyond, we can now have higher resolution files easily run over the internet in this new streaming landscape. And the next thing I wanted to talk about is more of a change rather than any necessarily breakthroughs, although depending on who you are, it can be seen as a breakthrough. And that is the shift to remote working. We suddenly saw a shift from office and studio spaces suddenly working remotely online, and filmmakers had to learn how to pivot to this new way of working for a large chunk of the production process. I'm going to release a video in my transition from working to home as a professional filmmaker in the coming week or two. So make sure you're subscribed if you haven't, and keep an eye out for that video. And so the next one is more of a production point of view, but it's something that I can see over the next decade a big shift to, and I think the creators of this can too, because they're really putting everything into it. And that is with what's called stagecraft. Now this didn't come out necessarily in 2020, but they have really gone all in 2020. If you don't know what it is, it's basically a new age way of making visual effects in film. And the way that it works is that there's a giant LED screen all around you, and this is able to project whatever you want onto it. But the clever thing about it is that this is getting run in real time, and it's using Unreal Engine. So it's using a game engine to create these environments. And these engines have gotten so good and look so amazing that now you can run in real time any scene you want. You can operate a camera, and the movement of that camera is getting tracked in real time, and those movements in turn are getting projected onto this stage. So this means you can create depth in real time just by tracking what the camera is doing and making sure that the environment behind them is also moving as the camera does. So this has really flipped what used to be all in post-production, and it's really moved it back to where film began in the first place, is with all the visual effects, they're getting created in the pre-production stage. So all the environments, all of the sets get developed before you film. And it gives so much power to the director, the filmmakers, to be able to come up with ideas on the spot and actually see in real time what you're creating. So films like Mandalorian have been using a stage like this, which is in Manhattan Beach Studios in LA. But this year they've really ramped up production on more of these stages. So they're installing one of these stages in Pinewood Studios in London, and also they're installing one in Fox Studios in Sydney, Australia. And so the more of these that are available, the more options that these filmmakers are going to have, and we could see a huge shift to this new way of working. So now, just before I finish what I think is the biggest change within 2020, I wanted to just give a dishonourable mention to QUIBI. May you rest in pieces. If you don't know what QUIBI is, don't worry, it was a flash in the pan. I'll just give you kudos for trying. There you go, get a little clap. All right, let's finish up with the final big change, the biggest shift I've seen in 2020, and it's could be seen as a breakthrough depending on who you are. That is streaming. And yes, it's something that's been around over a decade now, but it's something that really has become on its own, especially everyone stuck at home. Where streaming originally was seen at the end of the life cycle after it had been in the cinemas, but now basically all of the players in Hollywood are changing their business model to a streaming first business model, and we can thank the virus for doing that. But now basically we're seeing a new Hollywood. We're seeing less emphasis on getting those big breakthroughs, those big films make lots of money in the box office. They're going for more of a sustainable business model where basically they know how much money they're making every month, and the goal is just to get more subscribers rather than having one film that has to, you know, make lots of money and basically pay for all the films that didn't make any money. It is basically saying, right, we've got this many subscribers, we've got this kind of money to make films and projects. A lot of people are upset that now all the films will go straight to streaming and cinemas on the same day. I guess there's not much we can do about it. And, you know, when these companies are pushed up against a wall, they have to make business decisions to be able to stay afloat. And we're going to be waiting at least probably a good part of the next year before we can really feel comfortable going to the cinemas again. So really that's probably been the biggest breakthrough, the biggest change is basically this rise of streaming and these companies becoming streaming first businesses. The downfall though, potentially, and we'll see how this evolves over the next few years, is that we're not going to see these huge $200 million films get made anymore. They're going to be smaller. This means films like the Marvel films and other, you know, blockbusters like this won't be as big and as grand, but maybe technologies such as stagecraft and others, like I mentioned before, maybe these can come in and fill that void and bring the prices down and give more options to these filmmakers. So with that said, that is all of the changes and the breakthroughs I've seen in 2020. If you've got any that you're aware of, please leave them in the comments below. I'd love to hear what your thoughts are and what you think some of the biggest changes and the biggest breakthroughs are of 2020. So with that said, we're really going to expand in 2021. We're going to start making our own projects, our own films, and take you along for the ride. Hopefully in the new year, we're going to change our boring old setup that we have now. We're going to have more of a set. That's all in the works at the moment, so please like, subscribe, ring that bell, and I'll see you in 2021. Now I have to not die. Oh dear.
Thanks for watching Mini Academy Online. If you'd like to explore more of our content, click on this or click on that. Like and subscribe, thumbs up, ring bells, do a dance, sing a song, drink a hot cup of tea or coffee, and I'll see you in the next one.